In this video, I'll be discussing the controversial topic of race. In video games, a topic that I'm not an expert on, but I did do a lot of research for this video, plus I do have a couple decades of, personal experience to draw upon. Like with all of my videos, I make some jokes and make some serious points, and I trust that you, the viewer, will be able to tell the difference. Basically, if it sounds like I might be joking, I probably am. When I was teenage Mr. Spaceman and playing Super Smash Bros. Brawl, my best character was Mr. Game & Watch. And when my friends would ask, why do they keep playing as Game & Watch? I would jokingly tell them, oh, I play as him because he's the only black character in the game. Also, his down throw to down smash combo is super cheap, I love it. Fast forward to now, the Smash roster has gone from 12 characters to like 90. They got everyone in this game. They got Castlevania, they got Dracula, they got Kingdom Heart, they got Hentai, they got Noodles. Over 50 different games represented in the roster, from Nintendo games to other companies' games, and out of almost 100 characters, with the exception of the customizable Mii fighters that can look like however you want, how many black characters can you play as? 2! And they're not even on the character select screen. They're alternate palette swaps. 3 if you count Pokemon Trainer, but technically you play as the Pokemon, not the trainer. Compared to... yeah, okay. Maybe you could count Ganondorf too, but...
Hold your fire! This man isn't black!
That's right, y'all. Today we're gonna be talking about black people, race, and diversity in video games. Happy Black History Month. Oh, god dang it! Well, that guy can't tell time. And yes, the irony of the video about black people being late is not lost on me. But you know what? No, this was done on purpose. It doesn't have to be the shortest month of the year to acknowledge black people. And before anyone is a funny guy and comments,
"What are you talking about? There have always been black people in Smash. Donkey Kong's right there."
Wow, what an original joke. You have the best material. Also, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to lump black and dark-skinned under the same umbrella and use them interchangeably, which technically is not correct, but racial terms get confusing when it's not talking about real places, and it'll make sense in the context of this video. Alright, that's enough disclaimers! Anyways, look, I'm not accusing the creators of Smash of doing a racism or anything. Smash Bros. Is a reflection of the gaming industry, pulling its roster, stages, and content from all sorts of different game series, primarily Nintendo games. Nintendo has very few humanoid characters, and many of its franchises mostly rely on legacy characters rather than inventing new ones. The only human characters in Mario are Mario, Peach, Toad, and variations on those designs. The last new mainstay Mario character was who? Rosalina? Back in 2007? 15 years ago? Remember how they whitewashed Daisy? Are there any black characters in Mario? What the fuck? So don't get your Zelda shirt and cargo shorts in a tussle. I'm not hopping online to say that Nintendo doesn't care about black people. Many of the series represented by the Smash roster have black and dark-skinned characters in those games. Plus, recent Nintendo games have definitely done more of an effort in terms of diversity. You've got Marina from Splatoon 2, she's a news reporter and a DJ and an inventor, and she speaks every time you turn the game on. Literally every time you turn the game on. You've got Twintel from ARMS, she's an actress who uses her hair to fight. While most of them are background NPCs, you've got all the Gerudo women from Zelda Breath of the Wild. Urbosa was a very popular champion from the game, plus a few longtime characters like Doc Lewis from Punch-Out!, but then there's the rest of the Punch-Out! Roster that mostly relies on stereotypes, so... ugh. And Pokemon! The last 4 generations of Pokemon took place all over the world. Univers USA, you've got multiple characters like Iris, Gym Leader and Champion. Kalos is France, There's Grant. Alola is Hawaii, you've got many dark-skinned characters there. Galar is Britain, in it. And you've got characters like Nessa, where some artists on Twitter pulled shit like this. It's not even gonna appear in front of the green screen properly. But Mr. Spaceman, what are you talking about? There's plenty of great black video game characters. You've got Lee and Clementine from Walking Dead, Coach from Left 4 Dead, Shinobu from No More Heroes, Miles Morales from Spider-Man, Franklin and CJ from Grand Theft Auto, Matt from Wii Sports, Anthony Higgs from Metroid Other M, Captain Anderson from Mass Effect, Sergeant Johnson from Halo, 50 Cent from 50 Cent, Vince Young from Madden 08. There's so many. Isn't that enough for you people? Plus, the University of Southern California did a study in 2009 showing that black characters appear in video games in proportion to their population data in the 2000 US Census? Well, first off, that study comes with a big asterisk, being that most black characters are from sports games that are, real people, licensed products that are adapted from other comics, movies, and TV, and in titles and roles that often reinforce stereotypes. And my main point is that in many video games, it's almost never the main character, and rarely is there more than one. Do you want to play as a black person? Well, your options are limited. In ensemble games like fighting games, there's usually an international cast and a wide variety of people to play as. In RPGs that feature a party of people that travel the world, it's a little hit and miss. Dragon Quest, 0. Final Fantasy 1 through 6, 0 dark-skinned playable characters except for Minwu in 2, who dies. No, I don't count Black Mage. But in Final Fantasy 7, which had a more modern setting than the previous ones, there was Barret, a Mr. T-inspired environmental freedom fighter who cares deeply about his adopted daughter Marlene. He's a great character. In the remake. In the original, I liked him, but he came off as the stereotypical angry black man. But since then, there have been more, like Kyros in 8, Saz in 13, not a single person in 15, and this dude in the recent Kill Chaos Simulator. But again, none of these characters could be considered the main character, and while one is better than none, they're the only one in games with dozens of characters. Why can't there be 2?
Bullshit.
Xenoblade Chronicles 1 had multiple characters in a game of varying skin complexions. Xenoblade Chronicles X's real main character was Elma. I would say more about Elma, but spoilers. And Xenoblade 2 had Vandam, who dies like an hour after he joins. Alright, I'ma head out. In many games, you instead create your own character. Wow, this character creator is great! As long as they're not trying to make a black person. Many players like to create a character that somewhat resembles themselves. Not everyone does this, but many people do. Most character creators let you change your skin color, with the exception of Fire Emblem. Why do you have to look like this when your in-game dad looks like this? And the original Animal Crossing, where if you wanted your character to have dark skin, you had to have a Game Boy Advance, have a Game Boy Advance GameCube link cable, connect your Game Boy Advance to your GameCube using a Game Boy Advance to GameCube link cable, get on Captain's boat, listen to the song, go to the island, wait around for an hour on the island, then your character will have a tan for a couple of days. I know this because my mom loved Animal Crossing and would do this once a week because she wanted to play as a character that looks more like her. Thankfully, skin color options are in pretty much every recent game, at least the ones that I've seen. However, hairstyles are another story. There will usually be dozens of options of hairstyles available, common ones, anime ones, wacky ones, but if you want a hairstyle with that type 3 and 4 hair, I don't know the proper term for it, black people hair, something that is traditionally of cultural significance to the black community, then your options, if any, are usually buzz cut, afro, and Who do you know who's rocking corals? No, I want names! Looking like a little Bow Wow. The fact is, many people like to create characters that look a certain way, especially when that way is not present in over 95% of games. So the lack of options here is a little disappointing. But to be fair, some recent games do have black hair options, or at least have patched them in later. And I don't need to feel represented in every game I play. I don't always try to create myself in character creators, because I usually can't. And I'm not gonna be like,
There's not a single black person in Kirby, therefore is racist. Humph.
But there's definitely more to be desired. Mr. Spaceman, you mostly talk about Japanese games. Of course there aren't a lot of black people in Japanese games. There's no black people in Japan. Well, I would say that if you're making an international game marketed to an international audience translated into multiple languages, it's sometimes weirder when they're not there, or when there's only one. Footage unrelated. Also, what are you talking about? There's Japanese black people. But what about Western games? Welcome to the Western AAA video game industry, where we feature entirely unique protagonists in our games with wholly original designs. Are these not all the same person? Look, am I accusing all these game developers of being racist? Other than some of their hiring practices, of course not. This is more a symptom that's endemic to Western media as a whole, not just video games. There's a lot of money going into these productions, some more often than not, they're going to play it safe in their design decisions. And what's safe is usually the tried and true, and what the tried and true is to have a short-haired white male protagonist probably shooting a gun, because in their mind, that's what's guaranteed to turn the most profit. Yeah, it turns out that capitalism was the true final boss all along.
Hey guys, it's me, famous game designer David Jaffe. If you could go into a nightclub and murder a bunch of minorities for a platinum trophy, in a video game of course, would you do it?
Just because you think of a tweet doesn't mean you have to hit the send button. That's not even how platinum trophies work. As many of you already know, I do not like or respect the Game Awards, but other people do, so here's a list of the Game of the Year nominees that feature a black person as the main protagonist in the past 8 years of the show's existence. Yeah, that's it. That's the only one. And it was this year. Again, I don't need to see a Captain Planet style racial spectrum in the roster of every video game or every show or movie I watch. But I don't know, as a lifelong black person, of course I'm a little biased, but it's a little weird. I'm sure it's something that most people don't ever think about, but it crosses my mind sometimes when creative works are like, we're going to create a multi-continent spanning epic tale featuring dozens of fictional characters. Oh hey, that's cool. And everyone's white.
Wait, what?
Have y'all heard of the Bechdel test for women in media? It wasn't meant as a standard that work should go out of their way to meet, but more of a thought experiment to discuss gender representation in media. Well, I propose the Blackdel test for black and dark-skinned people. Here's the test. 1. Are there at least 2 black people? That's it! That's the whole test! If everyone was black in a work that didn't take place in either Africa or the hood, people would be like, why is everyone black? But then when everyone's white, no one ever asks. It's just assumed to be the norm.
Why are you white? Oh my god, Karen, you can't just ask people why they're white.
But I can! Why is it this way? Representation matters, especially in media. Here are quotes from people much more learned than me in this subject that you can pause and read. And it's easy for some people to say that representation doesn't matter when you've been represented by 99% of all media ever. All I'm saying is, I've been to over 100 Division I college basketball games, I was in the band, and I've never seen the mostly white crowd go wilder than when the one white boy on the team scores a pivotal three-pointer. So don't tell me representation doesn't matter to anyone. As it turns out, the majority skin color is usually seen as the default in that region, and anything else is a variation from the norm. In Western media, light skin is viewed as the default, and any variation from that is viewed as an optional exception. But regardless of where you live, there is no default skin tone. Well, human life did start in Africa, so technically if there were to be a default, it would be... Anyways, when you, I don't know, try to mix up the colors for once, you get cries of
Forced diversity
and
virtue signaling.
Maybe it's not forced diversity, maybe it's this piece of media stars people, so the people will be reflective of people. If you were making a story about, I don't know, bunnies, you wouldn't make them all white bunnies. You'd probably use other colors of bunnies, right? So why is it different with people? You have all these different colors to choose from, yet many creatives consistently choose these ones, and I go, I wonder why that is. So it's not forced diversity, it's any sort of variety having never been previously considered in the first place. Many recent game titles have tried to break away. Well, I'd be remiss if I failed to mention that indie games, the last bastion of integrity and creativity in the games industry, have been doing it for years. But major titles have begun to do it, which of course leads to comments from gamers, well, gamers, like,
another great franchise ruined by SJWs trying to earn woke points by pushing their agenda of acknowledging minorities exist. Horizon Forbidden West, it's so unrealistically diverse.
I would love for you to expand on what you mean by that. Apex Legends had multiple minorities in its roster, which led to comments like this. Hang on, let me get my white person voice ready.
Video games going out of their way to be inclusive in order to appeal to the smallest subset of their user base is ridiculous. People who play video games are mainly straight white males. Now let's look at Apex Legends, the new game published by EA. There is only one white dude in the whole lineup of characters. He's locked initially, and his abilities are toxic. Can't make this shit up.
And whenever you see statements like this, there's always one word that tells on them.
I have no issue with females and blacks being in game.
But... There is so much I could say about this, and it was posted on an unpopular opinion subreddit, so the poster already correctly assumes that most people would disagree with them. But I think one big thing is that some people seem to forget is everyone plays video games. Across all races, nationalities, gender identities, sexual orientations, everyone plays video games. From Mario to Sonic, Fortnite to Garena Free Fire to Candy Crush to Solitaire to freaking Wordle, everyone plays some type of video game. So even if certain players living in their own bubble have been conditioned over generations to think that white men are the ones who mostly play games, so white men should be the default video game protagonist, it's simply not true. Black people? In my medieval fantasy, how dare you insert politics into this game about war? This breaks my immersion. It's based off of Europe. There should only be white people. I played video games for the escapism of people of color not existing. It's an argument I've seen a lot, especially recently, so I will debunk it once and for all. Get ready for Mr. Spaceman's logic and reasoning spectacular. It's true that many fantasy stories take inspiration from medieval European ideas, knights, castles, chivalry, and so forth. If a story takes place in a historical setting, such as actual 7th century Britain or something like that, and the intent of the work is some degree of historical authenticity, then it would sort of make sense for most people's skin color to look similar, even if it does have some mystical elements layered on top, like King Arthur, fake guy, but a real setting. So I wouldn't expect too many people who look like me walking around, just like I wouldn't expect a game like Ghost of Tsushima to have too many people who aren't Japanese, just as I wouldn't expect Black Panther to have too many white people walking around Wakanda. However, this argument falls apart when it's a completely made up world, like just picking randomly out of a hat here for no timely reason at all, Middle Earth. But people from the same region usually look similar or at least have the same skin color, people will decry. Yes, this is often the case. However, when you're creating a setting for a grand epic, you can't just consider one place, but also the surrounding areas. Wouldn't it make sense that places would trade with other regions for exotic goods and resources they don't have? And that over time people would travel and migrate via these trade routes and settle down in other regions? Yes, because that is what people have done for centuries in the real world. Basically, people move, not to mention wars and other conflicts. So what makes a genre? Is it the class structure, technological setting, tropes, and themes? Or is it purely the melanin content of the characters? So if anyone says, it wouldn't make sense that everyone wouldn't be white, then at best it could be described as lazy world building, and at worst it could be concluded that the creator may have a racial preference or bias, intentional or not. In a made up place, you can have skin color vary between people in a similar way that hair color does. The Witcher series on Netflix was proof of this. That is a thing that you can do, and only the worst types of people will get upset about it. Which would give your game a lot of free promo. Just saying. Obviously, there are exceptions. For example, isolated places like Kamura Village in Monster Hunter Rise, where everyone there appears Japanese. Or again, Wakanda, where everyone there is Wakandan. On the other hand, you can work in different races into your story. Fire Emblem, I'm bringing it up again. Fire Emblem didn't have a black character until the 9th game in the series, with Devdin, and he was weird. In the game that was about furry slavery, fast forward to the 16th game in the series, Three Houses, where the game takes place on the continent of Fodlan. There's no scale given, but the story makes a lot more logistical sense if you imagine Fodlan is the size of like Texas.
We've gained more ground in our war campaign. Let's go retreat back to the monastery.
For a month. The people of Fodlan are white and people from outside of Fodlan are not, and through the conversations they provide outside perspectives on the conflicts and dynamics in the story. This enriches the setting and makes the world feel more lived in. Final thoughts, including answers to hypothetical questions and preemptive defenses against bad faith interpretations of what I've said, such as, well, you have a pretty good looking game here. Thanks. But upon inspection, you didn't quite hit the minority quota, so I'm gonna have to declare it racist. For most people, as long as the game is good, who gives a shit who they're playing as? Even that Reddit comment earlier pointed that out. This isn't something I've been silently fuming over for almost 30 years or think about all the time. Most of the games I've mentioned today are games that I like, but I do think it's worth bringing up, since I think it's something a lot of people have never thought about before. Now I have. Some action items to consider. If you're making a story, reverse your thinking. Instead of going, wow, one black person, that seems out of place. Instead think, does it make in-universe sense for everyone to be the same skin color? Something I'm not advocating for in video games is swapping the race of existing established characters. It often comes off as a performative gesture. For example, making Sam Wilson the next Captain America, thumbs up. Suddenly changing Steve Rogers to a black guy, thumbs down, unless the story you're making is specifically an exploration of what kind of difference that would make in his life. Try to avoid stereotypes. Characters don't have to be defined by their race or gender. Just write interesting, fully fleshed out characters, then consider making some of the new characters non-light-skinned people. Have more hair options in character creators. The open source Afro hair library is a great place to start. Mr. Spaceman, I don't feel comfortable having black characters in my story because as a non-black person, I don't think I can capture the black experience. Who is telling you to do that? No one is telling you to do that. People can just be black and that's it. For many characters, the black experience isn't a factor in their story. It's not like every white character captures the white experience of country clubs? Mayonnaise? Colonization? Voting against your own self-interest? However, if you want to do that, then, I don't know, maybe ask black people for help and make sure they're compensated for their time as well. Mr. Spaceman, I don't want different skin colors or races in my story because I don't want my story to be about race and racism. Maybe I'm an idealist, but I don't assume that racism is inevitable. It's societal learned behavior. Mr. Spaceman, I'm not very good at designing or drawing black characters. There's barely any resources on it. Well, how do you think you get better at doing something? By doing it. I don't know, use good references.
Isn't it racist to even point out the skin color of characters? I only see them as characters. I don't see their color.
Why you gotta bring race into this?
I don't know. Why is my race usually left out of it? Why did my neighbors call the cops on me in college because they thought I was breaking into my own house when I walked in the front door in broad daylight? Did they leave race out of it? Fuck, man. This is a multifaceted topic with other aspects to explore that I don't have time to talk about today, so I'm just gonna call it here. I foresee nothing bad happening after this. Nope. Nothing at all. Can't wait to see all the extremely supportive comments on this video, yup! And I'll close with, while a lot of progress has been made, there's still several IKEA's worth of rooms for improvement. Anyways, thanks for sticking around till the end, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe. Comment below with who some of your favorite black and dark skinned video game characters are, and that's it, video's over.